Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2019 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGillivray Speedway, 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway, Indiana. If you are coming into town for the PRI show or for any reason, it's a holiday season, you might want to come and see the Brickyard Lights, which are spectacular. Make sure you stop by McGillivray. It's only about 2 miles straight west of the Speedway. They have great food, great service, and of course the adult beverages are ice cold, as Larry would say. Tonight's show is presented, as always, by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the NTT IndyCar Series, and the SVRA. Want to remind you that if you ever want to get the hint of what it's like to drive and ride in an IndyCar, drive one, you got to take a ride in a two-seater. The Indy Racing Experience has it, and you can get a ride. Just go to their website, indyracingexperience.com. and find a date that works for you. You can sign up online and in the promo box put SJ1, you get a 50% discount. Or you can call the office and talk to Shonda. The number is 317-243-7171. My first guest is a gentleman that I always look forward to talking to, but he used to live in Illinois and he just didn't want to get in his car and drive over here for a couple hours. But now he's in the area, and I think one of the most interesting former drivers that have come along in a long, long time. Wait till you hear his story. He's a very accomplished driver. He drove in all of the series in the United States Auto Club. He won the Sumar Classic at Terra Haute. He won the Hoosier Hundred at the Fairgrounds. And he also won the Little 500 in Anderson, driving for Gene Nolan. And there was another one you won. I forgot what the heck it is. It's another big one.
Well, it wasn't Anderson.
Oh, it's Chili Bowl.
But I did win the Chili Bowl.
Chili Bowl, that's what it was. All right, well, somebody handed me this stupid thing, and dumb like me, I looked at it.
You can leave it on there. I'll just add the Chili Bowl to it then.
He was an outstanding driver. He kind of surprisingly got a call, and he went, drove for Cahill Brothers in the Indy Racing League, and he ran 36 races. He had 3 podium finishes, did extremely well. Besides the Cahills, he drove for A.J. Foyt. He's here living in town now, a man of leisure. Please welcome Mr. Donnie Beechler.
Thank you.
Whatever started you driving race cars? I mean, you're big enough, you played football, you were a basketball star, I'm sure, threw the shot and the track and field. What got you into race cars?
Actually, we lived not too far from Springfield Speedway, Shahane's, back in the 70s. And we would walk over to the track because we lived maybe just a few blocks away. But just kind of that got the taste, you know, that not that I ever wanted to actually get out there and run, but we loved hanging on the fence and having dirt thrown on us. But we moved out into Riverton, which was probably about 15 miles away. And my brother actually bought a TQ midget. And we were running in Macomb on Saturday nights, and I was kind of just stooging for him. And then bought a sprint car, and again, I was just stooging for him. So I pretty much got tired of that. So at the age of 20, I went and borrowed $5,000 from a bank and bought my first sprint car, and that's how it all started.
What kind of a story do you have for a bank? What do you want, son? I'm going to go buy a sprint car. Oh, really? How much do you need? They just threw it money at you.
Well, it was a little different than that because I go there. Well, I go there and I go to the loan officer and I said, hey, I'd like to buy a sprint car. And she goes, okay. So she's, you know, they're doing the paperwork and she's filling it out. And she says, well, what year is it? And I'm like, it's probably like an 82. And she says, is it 2-door, 4-door? And I'm like, it doesn't have any doors. Well, and I go, it's a sprint car. It's a race car. And she like tears that form up and she goes, you need a personal loan. You need to go see that guy over there. So I got up and went over and got a personal loan for $5,000 and bought my first sprint car. So,
you know, the accomplishments you did, and you weren't, you know, highly funded as I understand. I mean, you had to struggle to get from one race to another. Is there any win that you look at and say, wow, that was cool? Is there any that you say, geez, I almost had it? I would love to have won it.
I never won anything of a car that I owned. You know, it was back when actually the wings were just coming in. In fact, my first sprint car race, I was wingless. So, but I didn't care. I was on the track and I was in a sprint car, so it didn't matter to me. No power steering. In fact, the next year, I owned a car for 2 years. The next year, I put one of those Charlene Power Assist on it to get some kind of power steering. And in fact, the first year, I was hoping that I wouldn't make the feature because I don't think I could have ran 25 laps without power steering. So it was just the semi of 15 laps, heat races. But I never was too successful with my own stuff. In fact, I only had it for a couple of years, and then I sold everything. And then a gentleman approached me and said, hey, I got a sprint car. Why don't you just come drive for me? So I hopped in his car, and we were about 4 races in, and we won our first feature. So from then on, I just started driving for other people.
When did it occur to you that this can't last forever? Racing at some point's got to end. Now, it could be 50 years old, it could be 35 years old. When did it strike you that I better think about what happens next from here?
Well, I was always at that point before racing. Racing was always a hobby to me. After high school, I joined the military, so I was in the Air Force. Actually, I was in the National Guard in Springfield, the 183rd, and I was a jet engine mechanic. So I was kind of one weekend a month. And after I got out of tech school and came down, about a couple months later, there was some job openings there at the airport. So I put in for the job, and I actually got it. So with that, I became AGR, which is Active Guard Reserve. So I was actually full-time military, working at the airport, building J79 F4 engines, rebuilding those. So I did that for my term of 6 years, and I didn't want to do the military life or make a career out of it. So I got out, and then I went into the swimming pool business. So I was doing in-ground swimming pools. My dad had a business when I was in high school. So from 16 to I'm 58 now. So just a few years I got out, but I did in-ground swimming pools because I just didn't want that. You got to get time and grade so you could see your pay scale. I just wanted a little more than that. So I went into business for myself in the in-ground pool business. And then I started investing into real estate because the pools were really good during the summertime, but you need money in the wintertime too. So I started investing in real estate, buying houses. So that kind of kept me year-round income coming in. So with that, the racing helped because I was racing on the weekends 3-4 days a week. So I just took what money I made off of that and bought a house, and I just kind of kept doing that over time.
So between building houses and doing rehab building pools and doing rehab on your houses, you managed to fit racing in.
Exactly.
It worked out well.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
I am not privy to everything you've done, but I'm aware that by doing what you did, you've done very well, extremely well. And I have been calling, I think I mentioned this to you, I've called in fact, I talked to 2 of them today. I said, you need to have Donnie come and talk to these young drivers. Explain to them what life's about, because he's very successful. What made you move here? I mean, you have a daughter, it's an art school. She's here, isn't she, in Indianapolis somewhere?
Yeah, she goes to Heron at IUPUI. She's a junior this year. And we were actually, just with our connections at the Speedway and things like that, we knew a lot of people. And I always told Paul, I says, if we have to move somewhere, Indy was where I would like to move. And it just so happened that our daughter fell in love with Heron and IUPUI down there. So the connection was kind of there. We were kind of getting bored with Illinois and really wanted to get out of there. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So we ended up buying a house in Greenfield, and we were there for about a year, and then we found a place in Greenwood. So we love it here. I mean, it's I still have some investments in Springfield. In fact, Sunday we've got a huge auction at our shop in Illinois because we've downsized, so and I'm not in the pool business no more, or I'm still in the real estate business over there, but we're just liquidating a lot of stuff that I've accumulated over 50 years over there.
you know, there's something about racing, and I'm not sure what it is, because at my age, I'm still here. I still enjoy it. I still like talking to you. I like, you know, looking back at what you've accomplished and what, you know, so many guys have done. But how do you see racing today? Do you see USAC on the right track? Do you think IndyCar's doing the right thing? Do you think they're going, you know, in the right direction to build the sport back to where it used to be?
I think IndyCars is on the right path. I think they're moving forward. I think attendance is up every year, I think, at the Speedway. But, you know, as with the dirt cars, I'm a little disappointed in where that's going. You know, we've lost the Hoosier now. And, I mean, there for a while, a few years ago, I can remember, I wasn't racing at the time, but the feature event at Springfield was 12 cars. And it was embarrassing because I was a part of that at one time. And then it's sad because that, I think, is where a lot of these guys need to go to get to the Speedway. But it's coming back. You know, I mean, we were getting 30, 35, even 40 cars now at some of these mile tracks, and that's a plus. But I mean, I hope it continues. I don't know what venue they're going to fill to take the place of the Hoosier Hundred, but I hope they bring something similar back for them.
What were you surprised? Had the idea of running at the Speedway kind of left you and said, well, it's not going to happen, and Cahill's called you? What prompted them to call you? Why did they say, I think Donnie'd be a good guy to put in the car?
Larry Cahill?
Yeah.
I don't know. Actually, well, I knew Larry just from, I've never shook his hand and introduced myself to him, but I knew him just as a competitor as far as a car owner. Kevin Doty drove for him quite often. He's up there in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And when I first got that call in February of '98, he says, hey, Donnie, he says, this is Larry Cahill. And when he first said that, I thought, oh, he wants me to run his sprint car at Knoxville, which is 6 hours from me. And then he goes, hey, I just bought an IndyCar team, and I'd like for you to be my driver. So whether it was through the experiences that we had in the sprint car or the midgets, I was very fortunate that he did call me. But I don't know really. I mean, he's seen something that maybe, because I told him, I says, Larry, I've said, never drove a rear engine car before, or, you know, I said, we'd pass by the Speedway and go, yeah, there's the Speedway, and go down to 16th Street and run the midgets. But he says, you know, I've never owned one. He says, so we're going to go through this together. So he put together a team which was kind of unique because there was only one guy on our team when we first started that had any IndyCar experience. And the rest of us were all rookies. So we made the race and was tickled to death to do that.
You know, I found it interesting. You and I were talking, and I don't know who else was there, and I said, and you were telling me, I said to you, what is being a veteran of the 500 meant? And you said you had been somewhere with Donald Davidson, and somebody asked you that very question. You said, if I wouldn't have been there, I wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
That's how I got here.
Yep.
How many people recognize that in racing that you are indeed a 500 veteran?
Well, I mean, I haven't won the 500, and, you know, I was in it. As far as going out into public, you know, people don't go, oh, there's Donnie Beechler. Occasionally, maybe, but not. I'm not like AJ Foyt or the Al Jr. or those guys. I'm not recognized like that. But it changed my life on a personal level, just the accomplishment of being in the 500 4 times. So that was just a personal victory for me, just to be a part of that event and to participate in something like that.
It's amazing the number of guys that have come here with pretty good careers in racing and missed the show. I mean, there's been some pretty good size, and you made it 4 times. You tried. I don't think you ever missed, did you?
Nope. The time that I was with Foyt, with AJ in '02 was the only time that we didn't make the race that I practiced. I didn't get a qualifying attempt because he still had to get 2 of his cars in on bump day, so the last day, and we had practiced, and we were at speed, so we were fast enough to get in, but he was obligated to get his primary cars in first. And then late in the day, when we did go out to attempt, it started raining. So myself and Jimmy Kite we're sitting on the paddock there just waiting.
You have a new business that you started, something that I believe you developed yourself a better way. That, I mean, there's been something on the market, but you got a better one. You got a better widget. What is it? What are you doing today?
Well, I got involved with a gentleman a few years ago, and they were replacing AC units on top of these commercial buildings. And I seen where they were replacing some of them that they probably didn't need to be replaced. We could have repaired them, but it was just that there wasn't anything to fix that. So I got to thinking about that and, developed this tool. Took me about 2 years to get it kind of perfected, but now what we do is we hook up with insurance companies and try to save them some money and us make money also.
What is it and what does it do?
So what it is what we do is when hail hits these fins on these condenser coils, puts dents in them, and there's a comb that you can comb them out with, but when they're severe, there's just no straightening them out. So I designed this tool that actually straightens those fins out now. So we save Freon because we're not changing Freon out. We're not exposing it to the ozone. Time, because there's no downtime. We can actually do our repairs while the units are running. And the cost is about 60% less than what they would charge to change out a condenser coil.
And it's keeping you on the road.
And we travel. We're nationwide, so we just got back from New Mexico last week inspecting some. We possibly should be up in Chicago to do some. So it's slow, but it's a new company, and we go to some conventions, insurance conventions, just to kind of expose ourselves to what we have to offer.
A friend of mine who was a huge race fan, and he's on call tonight, so he's not here, but he said there is a tool that does it, but it's good for 2 or 3 times, and it's no good, and I got to get a new one, and yours will last a long time.
Yeah, mine will, depending on the unit and stuff, I mean, we could get probably 4 or 5 units out of them before we have to repair it.
Are they open market, or are you the only one that owns it?
Right now, I think I'm the only one that has it. I'm sure there's some other similar stuff out there, but for what we do and what it does, from the feedback that we've gotten, we're the only company that does this right now.
Successfully,
yes. I mean, I have before and after photos that I can show you that
I've seen them.
you would go, oh my God, that's crazy.
It's amazing. Do you miss racing at all?
I do miss it. I miss the competition and being out there, but there's a time when you got to say enough's enough, and like I said, I wish that I would have started 10, 11, 12 instead of 20, but I was very fortunate and blessed to get as far as I did with that.
Now you have a son, and there's not too much about racing he isn't familiar with.
He is all about it. That's his life, is racing. So, and I'm okay with that. He doesn't actually he wants to get on the track with his go-kart, but he doesn't want nobody else on the track. So it's just me and him. We get out there and race around, but he wants to run, but he doesn't want anybody to run into him or crash him.
I don't blame him, because Dad would say, no, you got to fix it. And that's not a good idea. And I know there was I think you were at the Grand King shop one night with him, and somebody made a comment about something, and your son said, no, that's not right. This is what it was. And they said, he was right. He's
19 now. He just turned 19 last week, but he is very detailed about everything. I mean, and because I'll ask him, we were at an auction today at a preview day, and there was a Jimmy Johnson car. He's a huge Jimmy Johnson fan, and he picks up this car, and he shows it to me, and I'm like, do you have that one? And he goes, no, I don't have that one. He goes, that's his rookie car. And I go, well, how do you know it's his rookie car? He goes, because there's a yellow stripe on the back of it. I'm like, oh, I guess there is a yellow stripe on. I didn't even look at that. I'm like, well, how do you know this is a rookie car? So he's just that detailed and stuff. So
does he know your career? Does he know what you accomplished?
That's the beauty of the Speedway, and what I'm so thankful for that they do on Legends Day, that they bring all the veterans back. Because if it wasn't for that, my daughter was born in '98, my rookie year. He was born in 2000. I was done in '02, so they didn't get to experience me physically racing. So it was very nice now that we go back to the Speedway and he gets to experience photos and gets to hear stories about us, and they love that.
And you do participate, you're invited for the SVRA.
They love the SVRA also.
Yeah, and you not only go here, but you travel around the country to various events, don't you?
We were invited this year. Tony Perella was kind enough to invite us to Virginia to VIR, and we got to participate there, which was amazing. And I take my family with me, and we just make a little vacation out of it, and it's just a great time.
Yeah, it's amazing. I saw you were in Gateway, and I felt sorry for you pulling a little Volkswagen bus, and I'm thinking, gee, how are they going to survive in that? That's not true, by the way. You travel well. Was Paula a race fan when you met her? Did you meet her at the racetrack? Did she have any idea what the hell you were doing?
I did. She did not. She didn't. She was 17, working at Burger King.
Wow.
And
really?
I was at the guard over at the guard base, and I would go there for lunch. And it's just kind of a funny story because our first date was at the racetrack, because I was in there, and I would go in there occasionally, and here she's behind the counter serving up burgers, and one night I went in there, and she's on a date with one of my friends, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe she's dating that guy. So the next time I'm in there, I'm like, we're going to the racetrack. So, but we still talk, and even my friend, we're still good friends. But that was 32 years ago, so we've been together for a long time. But she's been with me from pretty much my whole racing career, so it's great. Yep. Yep.
And if you don't mind my saying so, you did well.
I did very well. Very well.
I'm surprised your friend still talks to you.
Oh, I know. He did okay too. So he's good.
By the way, can she make hamburgers still, or
No, she does. She makes good hamburgers though.
Okay, all right. What's next for you? I mean, you have your business. It's called Condenser Coil Connection. What else you want to do? Are you interested in owning a car, or have you given that to say that's?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I think my involvement in the racetracks are pretty limited. But I mean, my focus right now is my family and my boy and my daughter, and just making sure she finishes college, and then my son, he's got some special needs that we take care of him, and he's going to be with me for a while. But I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I like involving him and the family and everything that I try to do racing wise, because they wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, I can tell you, I know that for sure. If you went somewhere and left your son home, you'd be in deep
that
doo-doo.
would be it. Yeah, that would be all over.
Has anybody approached you about being a driver coach?
I have not. I haven't had anyone come up to me. I've talked to a lot of guys, Scott Harrington and even Al Jr. Those guys are involved in that, but I haven't had the opportunity to do that.
You might be in for a surprise. I think you would be ideal for these young kids coming up in the USF 2000 and in the Pro 2000 would be well worth your driving experience. Plus, I think the series needs to bring you into these young kids and explain to them what to look for down the road and how to get there. I think, to me, that's huge, and I think what you've done is amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
It's really, really quite something.
Well, it's, there is life after racing, and trust me, I never thought it was ever going to end, because when you're in the moment and you're racing, and because you're focused and that's all you want to do, but in the back of your mind, you have to say, this isn't going to last forever. And I was in a different situation because I didn't have my family wasn't behind me, helping me along the way. So I had to kind of make those decisions and make sure that when it was said and done, that I still could go on eating. So
I found that over the years, eating has been a kind of an important part of my life too.
Yes.
As you see, I've done rather well with it. There's something about the sport of racing that has intrigued me for 65, 70 years. Because I used to go out, I got all enamored with Andy Granatelli and his brothers when they ran the midgets in Chicago, Soldier Field. Used to run there, and then I got to know Cowboy O'Rourke and Emil Andrus, and good grief, what a group they were. But when I think back to those times, and today, it's night and day. I mean, those guys, if you hit them and put them out, they'll find you in the parking lot and settle it. But the next morning, they're in a motel parking lot helping each other fix their car for the night. So it was really, and I don't know, probably none of you have ever been to the White Front. I'm sure of that. Nobody ever went there. But when the garage is closed in May, you go down there and all the drivers and mechanics were down there. And I couldn't understand. They drink beer. It was just, in fact, some of them I saw, then all they could do to get out the front door, but the next day they're in the car and going. So I don't know how you do that. Racing's an intriguing sport because, in my mind, it's the epitome of a team sport. I mean, your crew has to give you the car that you know you can stand on it, and they won't fall apart unless something breaks. So I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah, probably the only regret that I had in my racing as far as the 500 is that I wasn't involved. The history as far as the Speedway goes, when my rookie year was there, and all the reporters are, because they want the rookies, they want to talk to them and get their feelings, and I wish that I would have went to the Speedway. I didn't even go to the Speedway. I watched it on television, but we were racing somewhere. But, my dad used to take me to the 500 and this and that, but I never got that opportunity to do that. And I wish I would have, just to know a little bit more of the history of the 500. I know it now, but at the time, I didn't know that. And so I kind of wish that I would have had a little more experience with that, because the first time I was ever at the Speedway, I was a driver. So I was there on my rookie day watching guys go 220, and I'm like, there is no way I'm going to go that fast. But being a part of that and wishing I had the, so I could answer their questions when they were, asking me stuff. So that's probably the only thing that I regret about.
What was it like when you won the Chili Bowl?
That was pretty amazing, because it was the biggest midget race in the country. It still is, I believe. And now that, when I ran, there was 175, 200 cars. Now there's over 300. But it takes a little bit of luck to progress through the races and stuff. But it was an amazing feeling. I drove for Gary and George Zerunian out of California. Joe Fontana provided our motors for us. And it was kind of, the way that played out was, we ran, I didn't transfer through my heat race, so I had to run a B main. And I started in like the second row of a B main, and then we run our race, and I actually won that. And then for whatever reason, the curfew was coming up on the main race, so they had to get that race started. And usually Emmett and Lanny, they prepare that track before the feature event. Well, for whatever reason, of course the curfew was one of the reasons, was they didn't have time to prepare the track. So as soon as our second B was over, we came up the ramp. I didn't even get out of the car. They pushed me around to the pits. They changed tires, put fuel in, and back out on the track I went. So the setup that I had on my car was perfect for that main race. And we started, I don't know, 16th or 17th, somewhere back in the race. And I was driving, everybody was up on the cushion, and I was up there. I think Ronnie Schumann and Billy Boat was running first and second, and I'd gotten up to third. And for whatever reason, my car was right in the middle where you normally cannot get no traction. And we were picking them off just like that. And I think with like 3 to go or 4 to go, we took the lead on that. And so it was pretty special.
You won the Hoosier Hundred. You won the Sumar Classic. You won some major events. I mean, you weren't just winning at 16th Street. You won some major events.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to to be a part of those. And Sacramento was another one that we went out there, and we won two races out there, which we had. When I was with the Zeronians, they provided me with the best equipment at the time, and we had a good team to work with, and we won some races.
That's fun, and I hope that somewhere along the line somebody will take advantage of your knowledge and understanding of racing and how to prepare yourself. And it won't be because I'm not knocking on doors. You may not want to call, but I am not stopping knocking until you say shut up. I appreciate you taking the time, and a real nice night. I noticed the sun was always kind of probably in your eyes on your way here.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. I could barely see.
Yeah, I imagine. Because your windshield wipers were fast enough.
Because it was raining so hard. There was a big wreck on 465, and so we were busting a move to get here.
Yes. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come here. It's always been very interesting for me to see you and to get the chance to talk to you, and now have you come in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. Thank you, Don.
One of the very best, Donnie Beechler and Paula. And she says, we got to get going. I got to make some hamburgers, so we got to, kind of hustle along. My next guest is up here. We'll be heading here momentarily. And I don't know if anybody's noticed yet, but there is 2 microphones up here, and they're here for a reason. Not that I need one, but, oh, well, look who's coming, as if I had, somebody told her, somebody spilled the beans. I knew you would. I knew you would.
It slipped.
Yeah, so did I, outside in the rain. But before I do that, if anybody has an interest in computers, parts, pieces, or RC planes and all the equipment and drones, on December 3rd, Computer Overdrive is going to shut the doors, and everything is up for auction. So if you have an interest, if you have anything there now, get it, go get it. But on the 3rd of December, it will all be auctioned off if you're looking for a computer, and they've got them. And the drones and the RC planes and all the goodies that go with it, go down there, see them, check it out, and then when they have the auction, stop in. Also want to remind you, if you're lucky enough to need a dentist, there's only one place to go, and that, of course, is the Indy Dental Group with Dr. Jack Miller and Dr. Liz Lewis. They have a fabulous practice. If you need help, they can do it. And if you need surgery, that's what Dr. Jack does. And he's very good at it. Ask him. I have, and he said, yeah, I'm good at it. Make an appointment. Give him a call. Number's 317-846-6125. You have an interest in owning, or if you got a vintage car you need restored, you can, both the same place. You can buy one, or you can get one fixed at the Grand King Race Shops at 8155 Crawfordsville Road. It's on the west side of town over here. If you get to Country Club, you went too far. They can help you. They can get the car, and they've got some cars for sale if you have an interest. And whether you got a midget, a sprint car, Silver Crown, if it needs restoration, they can do it. Give them a call. Number's 317-820-3595. And if you are coming to town for the PRI show, and you'd like to take a tour, here's what you would take the tour in. Well, it's a little bigger than this, but it's the same as this. They will pick you up, take you wherever you are, take you on a tour and bring you back. And it's a lot of fun, and you can talk to Bill, and you'll find out all kinds of things you probably never knew he knew, but he does. He knows it. You'll enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. If you need insurance for your home, your car, or commercial property, call Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street in Speedway. He is a fantastic agency. They'll take care of you, and if you got a problem, he'll help you. And you might find you get better insurance for less money. We did. A lot of people have, and they say, wow, you're right. Call them. Make an appointment. Talk to them. Number is 317-248-0070. That's Mike Pardee of VP Insurance. And if you are a vintage car fan of any sort, sports cars, Indy cars, anything, you got to go to svra.com and subscribe to Speed Tour magazine. It is fantastic. It's a great magazine. So look it up, subscribe to it. Great articles, great pictures. It's worth it. What else have I got? That's it. I'm done selling. My next two guests are two people that from time to time put up with me. Not that they want to, but because I'm there and they say, well, we got to talk to them. Bill has spent many, many years sweeping floors, marking parts, cleaning parts, washing parts, pushing parts, cleaning, whatever it took. Drove race cars. He worked for Grant King. Grant King was a legend in what he did. Almost anybody in IndyCar racing for the last 30 years, at one time or another, was there working on something. He is now the owner. The place burned to the ground. They rebuilt it, and it's almost exactly as it was. One difference, when Grant had it, it was dirty. Now you can eat off the floor. Please welcome the president of Grant King Racing, Mr. Bill Throckmorton. And sitting next to Bill is the boss. She's been hounding me for 2 years. When are you going to talk to me? When am I going to get up here? She's a former race driver. She was such a pain in the neck, they sent her overseas somewhere to run for a while, and she drove a midget. Then she was on the PA at Gas City. The new owner came in and said, that's enough of that. And now she does all the bookkeeping for Grant King race shops, and they do a lot of work, a lot of things. They could rebuild engines, all kinds of things. And I said to Bill, don't tell her. I'm going to bring her up. But he squealed. She's here. Please welcome Stephanie Throckmorton. Now, something we got to start with, and I'm not happy to do it. Talk about a friend that I had, and I've known for over 50 years, John Martin. I knew John way back when he was a young kid. So was I, come think of it. And he's been around forever. He's done, his accomplishments are almost unmatched in a number of areas. But he was had been rebuilding engine. There was probably nobody better to putting an old, used, beat up, sit around for years, full of water, Offenhauser engine. He could take it apart, clean it up, put it back, and it ran like a champ. He passed away a week from tonight. So John is no longer with us, but he was a good guy. And he was in your shop almost daily for off and on for a year and a half, 2 years.
No, it's probably closer to 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah. And I had known John since I was probably 9 years old. And, you know, we're going to miss him dearly, not just for his work, but John was a good person. I mean, he was like a stepdad to me. I'd get a good chewing on my rear end when I needed it, and he got one every now and then from me, but we always looked at each other, winked and laughed and went about our business, you know. It's kind of strange not walking in there and saying good morning, John. So, but very talented man, and it's a shame. He, you know, I think I read somewhere where somebody said it was like a library burned down. It's, that man was a smart man. And it just wasn't on engines, different things. I mean, he was anything. Yeah, and if I had a question, you know, he would answer it in a good way.
He was a driver. He was a car builder. He was an engine builder. He was a team owner. He ran some very up people in racing. He ran their kids around the country and around the world, for that matter. And the funny thing about it, he was 80 years old. But he ran around with an iPad. Unbelievable. You start talking to him, here comes this damn iPad.
Hang on, it was glued to his hand.
Yeah, well, pretty much. And the interesting thing, he was showing me something, and in the background I heard this noise. I said, what the hell is that? Well, I put music to it. You're kidding. I tell you what, you know what this is missing? What's that? I'll sing in the background. No. I don't think so. But you start talking about an event or a car, just a minute, he'd pull out his iPad and show you. He built cars. He was one of the first to be successful with the Javelin when Javelin went racing. The guy was amazing. And, you know, he was never a big stud at Indianapolis, but he always made it show he was there. Right. And the majority of the work on his car, he did. He was just a fun guy to be around. And like you said, if you had a question, what happened, or what is this, or what do we need, he'll tell you. So, of course, yeah, when I did ask the question, when he answered, I didn't know what the hell he said anyway.
Right, but he'll be missed. They're going to bury him in California, but we will have a celebration of life for John probably mid-December. So we'll let everybody know on that, and hopefully everybody will show up at the shop for that. It'll mean a lot.
All right, Fluff.
Well, I'll start out with my husband's whispers to me when this all starts and says, speak directly into the microphone. And then he goes, I forgot you were the announcer at Gas City for 17 years. Yes, thank you. But back to John Martin, bigger than life, bigger than life. Billy had the privilege of knowing him pretty much all of his racing knowledge, learned a lot of lessons, a lot from John, but for the last 4.5, 5 years that I had the pleasure of meeting him and his wife, Linda. I called him the Hat, and I think that Linda, if she listens or she watches this show, it was the PRI show, which the PRI show is coming up here in a couple weeks. And we all went, the four of us went to the PRI show, and my husband's now telling me to keep my hands still. We went to the PRI show, and Linda and I are like this tall, and John's taller than Bill, but we turned around and we couldn't find him. And then Linda goes, we can't find him. I said, well, follow the Hat. He's the only one that's wearing a cowboy hat at the PRI show. So that's the Hat.
That was true, and it was funny. You could look up and find him wherever he was.
Now, back to you. After you bugged me about what a star you've been, how did you start driving?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I was a huge fan of, well, actually, I first met the father, Dick Carlson, who was a bail bondsman in the legal world, and I worked in the legal world. And then his son, Tice Carlson, drove. And then Dick Carlson had a car that was available. Well, not according to the fellow that thought he was going to drive it the next year, was available. And I said, let me drive, let me drive, let me drive, and he did. So all I knew was gas and go at that time. Trust me, gas and go was it. And I'm going to tell you, I agree with my husband as my hand moves again, because he's doing that thing, don't move your hand. I tried racing. It was a very memorable moment. I did it for 7 years. I got to do a lot of things, very thankful of it. But as far as on the racetrack, thank you, Roy Carruthers, I am not that good.
But you did run in South Africa and ran a sprint car and a midget over there twice.
I did twice. I got
Two different years. She was invited.
That's what I
back.
said. They said, let's get her out of here. Send her to South Africa. There's a good place to go.
I think that there was a lot of people behind that.
Yeah, I'm sure there was.
I don't want to go. Send her.
Did you have trouble when you started? Say, oh, you know, there's a girl in the car next to you. Did you have any problem with that?
Oh, no. Sure I didn't. No, it was good. No, I mean, I didn't grow up in racing world. I end up enjoying it, and it's funny how this all comes full circle because I enjoyed it. My best memorable racing experiences was from the booth at Gas City I-69 Speedway. Jigs Thomason, Phil Cannaday, the opportunity I got with Danny Williams and I were the both co-announcers. I learned a lot in racing, not necessarily behind the wheel, but from the 17 years of being the announcer at Gas City I-69 Speedway, it provided me a lot of knowledge.
And I do notice that you know how to speak, because when he steps out of line, get back here. Yes, dear. Yes, dear. She sometimes doesn't. She doesn't need a microphone all the time.
No.
You worked with our Grant's is actually your uncle. He's was it your mother's brother or somebody's brother?
My mom's sister, Doris, was Grant's second wife, or the main wife when he was back here through the racing. And
she was one of the first women allowed in the pit area, if I'm not mistaken.
Her and Kate McNaughty and Wanda Knepper were the first ladies that they actually let through the gate. And I believe Doris was the first licensed USAC mechanic in the Speedway.
And she was also listed as the owner of his car, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly, yes.
He did anything to get her in. It was either that or she'd yell at him over the fence.
I tell you what, it wasn't a deal where she just ended up on a tag or a label. Doris was a go-getter. I'm sure Bill remembers her. Doris did the PR. She did the sponsor. She took care of different things. because sometimes Grant wasn't very good with people and,
Oh, really?
would get upset and throw things at him in different scenarios like that aren't real good. And Doris had to fix it and make sure the sponsors still showed up the next day.
When I would stop down there, I would open the door and look. If it looked quiet, I'd come in. If it looked like he was ready to say something, I'd just shut the door and leave. But I never had a problem with him. When he had his office, which I was amazed you could find him in his office. There's clutter everywhere. But I'd go in there and he'd sit and we'd shoot the breeze for 30, 40 minutes. And I said, you got to get back to work. Yeah, I better. Bye. And I'd leave.
Yeah, as he got older, he mellowed out a lot. He really did.
Yeah.
But he ended up with Parkinson's, and it kind of slowed him down a little bit. But back in his heyday, he could be a handful. But another very smart man.
And most everybody who was anybody at any time, at one time or another, worked there, went there, bought there, had stuff made there. They crossed through that door. Yes.
Well, I think that he's kind of inherited that ghost of Grant, lack of a better word, in the essence that yesterday we had a gentleman come in, walked in the main entrance door, and Billy goes, "Can I help you?" Finish the story. He said, "I just want to see the lady in the office." That would be me.
Yes, it would be.
Doris. I'm a Doris Jr. and he's
He didn't want to
definitely
deal
a
with me.
Grant.
He goes, "I'm going to deal with the lady in the office." Okay.
What, did he think you inherited some of Grant's finer points?
I try not to, but some days it does show.
What is it goes on today? You list the Grand King Race Shops as a working museum. What goes on there on a daily basis?
We were very fortunate to have John, and like you said, John's probably one of the best on the Offenhauser engines. He was good on a lot of the different engines. I'm pretty good on the Chevys and some of the other race engines, but I'm just nowhere near what John Martin was on the Offenhausers. So, but John loved doing that, and that was our way of giving him something to do, and it added a nice touch to the shop. I do a lot of the fabrication. Anymore, I do a lot of the PR. I find a lot of the parts. Stephanie does a ton of the PR. She keeps the books. We still do a ton of commercial business, and so we're going 15 different directions, but we thoroughly enjoy it. And
But it wouldn't be the shop without Mike.
Oh, absolutely not.
No, I tell you what, Mike, I give him a hard time every day, and he gives it back most of the time. But Mike probably keeps us all together. If she gets mean at me, he kind of calms her down.
Really? Gee, Mike, I didn't believe you can do that. You can calm her down.
Mike's good at calming her down.
Oh no, it's always 2 against 1, and that makes him irritated. But we do educational moments. We do when the spring comes. We have some of the private schools that come in, and it's the 5th graders, 6th graders, 7th graders that'll come in.
Well, we also have college classes.
And we have college
Indiana
classes as
State
well.
and different schools, and do a lot of different things.
Your facility is available for weddings, bar mitzvahs, just family gatherings, whatever, you want to have a little get together.
Anything we can do to keep the lights on, we'll try it once.
All right. And speaking of keeping the lights on, as was mentioned by somebody, that the PRI show is just days away, and you have an event you're putting together for the Friday night, I believe, oh, no, you're not?
Not the Friday night. We've never talked about that. We talked about the Thursday night of December 12th, but kind of throwing into the mix is we'd like to try to make sure that the fans and family, or friends, fans, family of John Martin, and we're waiting on those specific arrangements in California so that they can make it back here. So that's,
so that's
put on
changed.
hold.
Oh.
It's put on hold until we can get, obviously, we've talked to Linda today. Linda wants to be here. Well, she should be here, and but I want to make sure that her arrangements can be made to be here for that. So we had talked about, we will be open during the PRI. Our numbers are on the website, and they can call us and come and get.
Yeah, we're always there.
We're always there. Well,
I get up to go to the grocery store to get eggs on Sunday, and there's always somebody pulling down the driveway. So
You tell them, get out of the way, I got to get eggs.
no, we're pretty good about that. We enjoy it. I'm glad to see people coming down.
If you want to come down and visit, the number as I gave you earlier, 820-3595. Ask for Stephanie. She's reasonably easy to talk to. Reasonably. But don't call before 10:30 or so, though. I forgot to mention that.
AM.
AM, yes. Well, yeah. PM.
10:30 p.m.
Yeah,
That's
you're
not
done.
good
You're-
either. So
No, you're watching the 11 o'clock
Well, I'm
news through
doing
your
that.
closed eyes.
I'm doing that AR thing that you can only do anything between that 8-hour period.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. What got you to want to buy the shop?
I mean, I was there since it was built in 1970. After Grant and Doris were divorced, I still lived with Grant. I actually drove for him in the 80s. After he had his little hiatus, went to jail. Me and him bumped heads on that because there was no good reason for that to happen. But I raced for a long time after that, and he passed away in '99. And his widow at the time knew that I was probably the person to buy it because I do have a good work ethic, and she was there 2 days ago, and she goes, "I'm glad you bought it, and that's the reason I wanted you to have it, because I knew it would be like this one day."
Actually, when you think about it, the fire was a blessing. I'd hate to try and clean that place up. It was easier to start from scratch.
Well, yeah, honestly, I'll say it was pretty clean when we had the fire, and it was kind of sad because I lost a lot of things that I'll never be able to replace. So you can ask Stephanie. I'd be driving down the road, and I'd go, "Damn it, gosh, that was in there." And finally, you just get to the point where, like, quit worrying about it. Time to do something about it.
Well, you mentioned that Grant took a vacation for a while, and it probably was the best time of his life because his roommate at the time was Reverend Jim Baker.
It was.
Of all people to get in the Hooskow with, and your roommate, Mr. Baker.
Oh, I'd have paid money to heard that first conversation between those two. Yeah, can you imagine that, Bill?
So, there had to be some positive out of that. I don't know what it was, but in fact, after I saw him I don't think it really did influence him a whole lot.
No.
I don't know, but anyway, it was kind of interesting. You have had in the past the speaker series. Do you still continue that? Are you going to continue it?
We've been so busy. There's 22 different cars we're working on right now at this time. With John's untimely passing, he was finishing up 2 offies, and I'm going to have to finish those up. And it's hard for me to have a whole lot of time, so that's going to kind of hurt. But yeah, we're gonna get caught up, and we'll be back to the speaker series. I kind of want to let the Speedway do their thing for a while, because I don't think it's good that there's 2 or 3 of us doing that, because everybody gets burned out on it. You can only have so many speaker series.
Okay, makes sense to me.
But
What do you want to add to this?
I want to add to his story because he's been groomed for bigger things.
Who did your grooming?
Well, it gets
Well, we
into-
do have a dog groomer shows up once a month. No.
It's a mobile van. It comes down and she
I
puts
see.
on the ESPN news and sports and stuff. No, he's been groomed for bigger and better things. We've got a lot of things going on in the shop, despite the normal everyday traffic and planning on like the school groups and educational stuff. We've made some alliances.
Yeah, and you're well aware, Gary and Kim Trout, last time I was on here, I told you that my ideal situation one day would be to have an IndyCar team. And we've been working really hard at that. Gary and Kim Trout, Stephanie and I, probably 8 months ago, we had a few things that just kind of aligned, fell into place. And I think we're really close to putting a deal together. I can't say with who, but right now it's going very well, and I think a lot of people would be happy to see another team come on.
And I think especially the new owner.
I think it would be good.
I think the new owner would like to see a new one. And what I was going to say, you notice I wear a hat that says Grant King. They have these for sale. And they have the winter model, which is laying on the table or on the floor by now, I don't know. But if you would like one, do you have any?
I call them a toboggan, and people look at me like, "Where are you from?" And because toboggan's a sled, but what do you call that?
I'm younger than you. I call it a beanie.
Beanie, a skull cap, or we do have some beanies and toboggans. But I did meet. Yeah, it's in my sleeve of my.
Yeah, so this is kind of a neat hat. I get discounts when I go somewhere. It's, oh, Grand King Shop. Oh boy, here's their latest one. There you go.
Beautiful.
Isn't that nice? Yeah.
It's the winter months,
Do you,
and because we have to keep the lights on, we keep the temperature low, so I wear this every day.
It's a good idea. And do you have them in the shop? If somebody stopped by and said, "Boy, I'd like to have one of those." Don looks so good in his. I need one.
You have extra.
You need one because you got a little spot that needs a little cover in there. But
Sometimes you need some in the month of May.
I always wear one. Are you kidding? I've had enough.
But we have different
I've had
varieties.
enough cancer stuff burned off. I wear
We do
them.
have different varieties, but we do have steady ones of the ones you're wearing with the Grand King profile on the side. And as I move my hand, you're looking at me. And then also the Kingfish logo. And then these hats, we have several different models of these. This one I could probably get again. But we have the skull caps, the red ones, the checkered flag ones I've gotten from Marie Halls, but we put our logos on it. So yes, if they would like to get one of these nice warm winter hats, they got to make orders for those. They're
Oh,
not.
you didn't bring any with you. Okay.
Steph does really good on the merchandise.
And you notice they both wear, in case he doesn't remember his name, it's on his shirt.
I looked down twice today. I really did.
Except for you haven't seen the shirts that actually have his actual name at home. This one says Billy Out for Public. The other one has a different.
Yeah, William.
You have that too.
I used
Love
to
of
send
my
him
life.
I used to send, oh,
Could you
God.
do this for me? Yeah, that's all
Oh,
embroidered
boy.
right there.
I think I'd wear that in the house. Anyway, if you haven't been to the shop, you need to stop by there. It's a great place, fun place. And then probably if you get it at the right time, he's getting his butt chewed out, you can stop it and talk to her, and then he can go in the shop and hide or do something. It's a very interesting place, and I am pleased that you have taken the time out of your very, very, very busy schedule to stop by here. And I noticed you brought your kingpin with you. The beep line guy is here.
Yeah, I will say now this
You will
Bill
say.
Kaiser, he loves his history, his IndyCar history, and Stephanie and I have boxes and boxes, and Phil has kind of become our curator, and he'll come down, go through boxes, organize, set it up, and I think he gets amazed with some of the things that he actually pulls out of our archives, and it's amazing. Phil's knowledge, it's pretty remarkable.
You're not kidding. It's amazing. I'm amazed. I'm absolutely amazed. But you might want to know that they have already signed some evenings to perform here next year. There's a number. I don't remember what the number is, 8 or 10 or something, to be here. And they're working on a couple of others in the area. So if you haven't seen Beepline, what's your web address or Facebook or wherever the heck you got your listed? What's the name of it? What is it? Beepline at Facebook. I'll put on Beepline. All right, you'll find your schedule. They are a good band. How Phil gets in is real easy. He's got a studio and they rehearse there, so they let him play. I thought that's pretty neat. We are going to say thank you for being here. We will look forward to hearing when the memorial for John will be held. And when I talked to Linda, I said, if you come into town, you got to come up. We'll talk a little bit. She said, oh, sure. So we'll make that happen. Again, I said, I've known him for at least 50 years, probably more, actually. Good guy. Oh,
No,
you know, something that was interesting. I walked in a shop one day, and he says, look at this thing. So what the hell happened to that? He said, it's been sitting somewhere. It's full of water. It's been there for 25 years. I said, really? he told me who it belonged to, and I said, really? I know how he won. I see how he won. Really? Yeah. There was a few things in there that weren't necessarily ways they should have been, but
Yeah, that's one that we've got to finish up, and most of the offies were 159s with the turbo. This one's probably closer to a 179 or a 180.
yeah,
And all I'll say is it was a 73 winner, so
whatever. Anyway, I want to thank you both for stopping by. Enjoyed it.
well, thank you, Don K.
Donnie and Paula for coming in. I always enjoy, I should say Donnie, but it's always good to see Paula. Because I threatened him. I said, if you don't bring her, you stay home. He said, okay, I will. If you ever get a chance to look Donnie up on the internet, Google it and look, you'll be absolutely amazed at what he did and what he's done. Amazing guy. And his 2 kids are phenomenal. And his son, I heard him, he and somebody talking, and they were talking about something, and his son piped up, that's not quite right. It was in 77 or whatever it was. I went, I don't remember that, and I was there. We will be here next week. I want to make sure everybody has a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy your friends and family. We plan to do that. But we will be back here next week, which I think will be December 3rd. Now, the neat thing about next week is this. There's a drivers' meeting on Wednesday. The drivers will be in town for physicals, but Mark Miles said, I just got to take all of you out to dinner. So guess how many drivers are available? That's about right. Pretty well covers it. But there are some young ones that are coming, and I don't know if they're going to dinner. I'm working on that, and I got a couple other ideas. But we'll be here next week. So enjoy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your friends and family. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, Don K. saying good night. See you next week. Be good.